fixing on this today. I have some codes on this car that I'm going to fix today. So right now I can't really drive this car because it keeps going into a transmission limp mode. The ABS light and traction control lights are on, and also the check engine light. I got codes for the left rear wheel speed, and when I check in the data in the scan tool, it's reading 0 kilometers an hour from that wheel. I'm also getting a P0730, which is an incorrect gear ratio code, which has to do with the transmission. But since I'm not getting wheel speed from one of the rear wheels, that's going to be the first thing to fix. The transmission relies on the rear wheel speed to calculate the output speed of the transmission. So if there's something wrong with that, it will mess up your transmission shifting and stuff. I suspect it's a tone ring because our climate here is not that good. There's a lot of salt and corrosion and stuff. So I'm going to take the wheel off to check it and just make sure that's the issue. And if it is, then I'm going to replace the tone ring. Some people just replace the whole axle, but I don't see the point in replacing an axle if it's still good. So I just got a tone ring to replace it, and that should fix it. People are saying online that if you get a transmission code like that, then your transmission is bad. But that's not really true. It could be a bad transmission if it throws that code, but if you have any ABS codes, then definitely fix that first. That's the very first step of diagnosing a transmission code, is check if there's any ABS DTCs, and if there is, then fix that first. So that's what I'm gonna do here. Okay, so the first step is going to be to jack this up and take the wheel off, and then we'll take a look at what's going on in there. Alright, so I have the wheel off, and since I suspect it's a tone ring, first thing I'm going to do is take the 10mm bolt out of the speed sensor, and I'm going to pull it out and shine a light in there, just so I can verify that it's a bad tone ring. Okay, so I got the speed sensor out, and if you look in there, it looks like there's a lot of pieces all around there. What that is that's the outside of the tone ring. It came apart and it was flinging around inside there. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace the tone ring. So the first thing I did after verifying it was the tone ring, I'm just gonna sit the speed sensor to the side. I took the axle nut off. It's a 32mm socket, and I just wanted to get that one over with just to make sure that it would come off properly. You might need to work it back and forth to get it off. And now that I got that out, I'm going to start taking apart some other stuff. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to be taking off is the brakes. So you can take off that bolt and set the caliper to the side, and then we're going to take the 2 bolts off behind it that hold the caliper bracket on, and then I'm going to slide the rotor off. Alright, so I removed the caliper and the caliper bracket. It was 15mm for the caliper, and sometimes it's 13mm, and it's an 18mm bolt to get the bracket off. And after I got the bracket off, I slid the rotor off, and I'm going to start disconnecting the arms in the top, right here, and I'll disconnect the sway bar link, and also the arm down here. You could just take the axle out by dropping down the diff and taking out the axle that way, but I don't have a lift right now, so I'm just doing it in the driveway. So I'm just gonna take this knuckle and pop it forward, and I'll deal with it that way. I'm gonna keep the axle in there because I don't want it to spill out fluid. All right, so I got the 3 top arms off right here. Be careful when you take them up because they'll want to pop up if they're good. And they're 18mm bolts and nuts. So the next thing I'm going to do is take off the bottom arm here. That should be an 18 too. Alright, so I got this bottom one undone. I'm gonna want to pop the knuckle to the left and out of the way so I can access the axle. So I'm gonna have to take that. It's a 21mm nut, and on the other side it's a 14mm hex. So after that comes off, you should be able to pop the axle back and set it aside so we can see what it looks like. Alright, so I got the knuckle off and set to the side. As you can see, that's the tone ring. That's just the metal ring that's left around it. The outside of it corroded off, and you can see little pieces of it in there. That's what's left of the outside of the tone ring. And to pop the knuckle off, it's ideal to take the brake line off there. I just took the bolt out and popped it up so I have a little more room. But if you're having trouble with that, just disconnect that completely and it'll be able to slide right off. So I need to clean out the pieces from inside the wheel bearing there. And then I'm going to pop the old ring off. And then we're gonna clean up the surface around here and gently hammer the new tone ring on. Okay, so I took a flathead screwdriver and put it at the base of the ring, and I hit it with a hammer and it popped off. So now I'm gonna take a wire brush and clean up the corrosion around the edge, and that most likely won't be enough to pop the new one back on. So then I'm gonna take a die grinder with a soft face and I'm gonna clean it up so it's nice and shiny. That way it'll be easier to slip the new one on. You don't want to take too much off though, because you want the tone ring to stay on and not fall off. Okay, I got the ring where the tone ring goes on cleaned up from all the scaled rust. So now you can slip the new tone ring on and gently tap it with a rubber mallet around the edges evenly, put it on. And if you want, you could put a little bit of lubrication around here to make it a little easier for you. So I'm gonna go ahead and tap that on and then I'll show you the results. Okay, so I got the new tone ring on. When you put it on, you want to make sure that it's flush against it all the way around, because you don't want it to be sticking out at all. So it's touching against it all the way around. And you want to be careful not to hit the tone ring on anything or scratch it, because you don't want to damage it. And before you start putting it back together, make sure all the debris is out from inside there where the tone ring goes. Okay, so I'm gonna start putting it back together. The first thing to do would be to slide that back into place, and I'm gonna slide this into it at the bottom and then start connecting the arms in the reverse order that I took it apart. Alright, so I just finished putting it all back together now. While you're putting it back on, it's a good time to adjust the park brake on this side and lubricate your brakes if needed. And I just put some grease on the threads after I put the nut on, so the threads don't rust. So I'm gonna put the wheel back on, and then I'm gonna get the scan tool and we're gonna go for a test drive and see if it fixed the no wheel speed issue on the left rear, and then see if it fixes any of those other codes, which it should. Okay, so I just got it back together now. So I'm gonna connect the scanner and clear the codes, and then take it for a test drive and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I just cleared all the codes. So now I'm gonna go into the ABS computer and I'm gonna look at the live data to see if it's reading the wheel speed from the left rear wheel now. So I'm just gonna load that. Alright, so left rear wheel speed is at the bottom. I just need to move my other car and then we'll move it and see if it reads. Okay, so I'm about to move and look at these and see if it's reading wheel speed for the left rear wheel now. So here we go. And there we go. It's reading. I just need to stop for a second. But it looks like it's reading now, so that's definitely a good sign. We're gonna go for a little drive and see if it fixed it. And look at that, it's shifting perfectly too. Before it would go right up high and wouldn't shift properly. Let's go for a little drive and see how it feels. Shifting perfectly, and it's reading the speed properly too, so the tone ring definitely fixed that. So I'm gonna go for a little test drive, get a good drive out of it, but so far it's working perfectly good, so I'm glad about that.